Hi, Chris Mc Loone here with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Welcome to this episode of our podcast. Today, I have just one question really that I wanted to cover, and that is, do we need to customize? What I mean is, do we need to customize our apparatus? There is a lot that is going on right now in the apparatus stratosphere, I guess you could say. The apparatus purchasing environment. There are a lot of things that, kind of make me think, do we need to do the customization that we do? My answer is yes. I'd be interested to know your take on the situation as well. But my answer is yes, with a slight clarification or qualification, which I'll get into later. But I think to start off with, why is my answer yes? We need to talk about why we customize, and there are a number of things that lead us to customizing our rigs. First of all, is unique equipment carrying needs. Now, when I say that, I am thinking of some of the more specialized rigs, the heavy rescues, the technical rescue trucks, technical rescue trailers, things like that, where because of the nature of the equipment we carry, we have unique storage needs, unique mounting needs. I can think of, the truck that my fire company runs has a lot of struts for collapse rescue, for trench rescue. Those struts themselves, their bases, the different tips that we have, those are all things that require, unique mounting methods. And so, when you think about it, those are the types of things, types of rigs, types of equipment that requires that customization. Now, many times also, I know our last one, the rescue truck that we replaced in 2016, we had a long board that came out, that rolled out of the back, that had the struts and the bases all in one place. But we also get into the compartments themselves. There's an awful lot of custom fabrication that goes into compartments for different types of fire apparatus. And I know I'm bringing up rescues, but it doesn't only have to be rescues. It could be ladder trucks. It could also be pumpers. It could be air units, air and light units. There are very specific things that these types of units need. So unique equipment carrying needs do often lead us to doing some level of customization on the rigs. Unique fire company or fire department needs. And by this, I'm thinking, legacy stations. One thing comes to mind to me. I just had a conversation last evening at our training night. The person I was talking to runs with my fire company because he lives in our district. However, he is also the member of another fire company that he joined when he was 16, because at that time, my company did not yet have a junior firefighter program. So he's a member over there, and we were talking about how there is a rig in that department that is going to be replaced because there is a pump repair that needs to be made on it, that due to the age of the rig, which is 1996, and 1996 does not seem like that long ago to me. However, when you think about it, that is almost a 30-year-old rig. And so they need to replace it. They need to replace it in a hurry. I say a hurry. They would like to replace it sooner than later, obviously. And then we get into the current purchasing environment where we talk about lead times and such. Their budget is such that they don't think that for what they need, they can afford to pay for a brand new rig that they custom build. So they're looking at some used ones. And then I suggested program or stock units, which we will get into later. And he said, well, it's hard with a stock unit. It's also hard on the used side because they have space constraints. Their trucks can only be so long. The bay, they have a double wide bay. It's a single bay firehouse, two trucks stacked next to each other, and two trucks next to each other, and not a lot of space to go back. My own fire company is the same way. We have a 1927 building with two bays. with 2-bay doors. Those bays back up to a wall that makes it such that that our space is limited there. Later, we added 2 more bays, much longer areas to park the rigs. However, we do still have that one space constraint. So we have to keep that in mind when we're designing trucks. We almost have to design the pumpers we purchased for that other bay to ensure that we can swap vehicles, that we can do what we need to do there. So, unique fire company and department needs, station height and depth requirements, unique fire districts. There are some really, they're very nimble vehicles out there that are specially built, custom built for areas that have very, very narrow streets, have that where you need somewhere you need a very tight turning radius. Very often, the wheelbases need to be short. So custom rigs for that as well. Think about and getting back to the station, also height restrictions. There are some that have to have have to come down a bit because of height restrictions. And think about your first two. Height restrictions just with bridges, railroad bridges, other overpasses that you might have to go under. So there are a lot of different reasons why we customize. And another one is we customize to meet a certain specification. When you get into larger municipal departments, they're putting their spec out for bid, and the bid winner is going to be the one. They're very adamant about it. The one that's going to win is going to be the manufacturer that meets the spec. And there are a lot of different things. We just talked to Ricky Riley a few weeks ago about a new order that his department, the Prince George's County, Maryland Fire and Rescue Department Fire and EMS Department has made. It was for four pumpers and a TDA. He mentioned, on their bumper, the bumper of those pumpers have like 20 different options on them. So, and those are customized for his department, based on his calling area, based on what has worked, based on staffing, based on deployment. All those things come into play, and it comes into play in a very specific apparatus design that is going to be customized for that department. So we talked about rescue trucks, and some of the unique compartmentation that needs to be done there, some of the unique fabrication within those departments or compartments that needs to be there. We can also talk about staffing requirements. There's a lot you can do custom within a cab if your staffing is only 2 in the back, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, or 3 in the back. There are some other things that you can do there that are customized for that particular department. I also want to talk, though, and the reason the question, do we need to customize, came up to me, or for me, with the reason I started thinking about it. Well, there are a couple of different reasons why I was thinking about it. But there's been, one of them is that, I visited a manufacturer that builds stock rigs, and then their dealers purchase them, and then they sell them out to fire departments. Right now, the current purchasing environment is such that perhaps buying something custom, that the current apparatus purchasing environment is such that perhaps if you want to avoid some of the lead times we are experiencing right now, a program truck might be the better option. We are experiencing lead times, right? Increased lead times right now. Just in general, there are increased lead times. When you do a lot of custom work to a rig, that is probably going to increase that lead time a little bit as well as the cost of the rig. We know that, for certain things, custom fabrications are going to come with a cost as well. Costs are up generally on fire apparatus. things are improving on the lead time side and hopefully on the cost side, but the costs are up when you add custom engineering, custom fabrication, and things like that for those compartments. That will add cost on too. So customization in the current purchasing environment also makes me wonder: do we need to customize? And again, my answer is yes, for some of the reasons that I mentioned above about why we customize. And as well as the current purchasing environment. Another reason I say do we need to customize is because there are alternatives out there, and I mentioned the program and the stock vehicles. Right now, if you were to buy a program or stock vehicle, you will more than likely receive that vehicle quicker, and at a not at a cost that is not as much as if you were to custom build one from scratch. So that is a possibility. With this option out there, do we need to customize? And the answer there is really if you can deal with the changes that not changes, but with the custom truck and how it's designed and how it's put together, and if it will work for your calling area and you can do it, then there is that alternative. But you have to decide whether that's going to fit your response area. I talked about above, about the bay door, the bay depth. My fellow firefighter, the other department could not really. Well, he was thinking that he couldn't go with a stock vehicle because of the space constraints. You'll need to check with the different manufacturers. They may have different stock vehicles that would fit different depths. You need to check that out on your own. But again, you have to determine whether it is good for your response area. I've often said, actually, I should say, I've often concurred with those who say that everything with apparatus design is a trade-off. And the same thing goes with if you were to buy a stock or program vehicle instead of a custom rig, there is a trade-off. You might trade off the pump manufacturer you're used to working with. You may trade off, usually get a rig with X amount of seats, with only 3 seats, but this one comes with 4. It just is, what it is. It may be a little longer than you normally would buy. Maybe the wheelbase is a little longer. You need to take a look at that and say, okay, can this still get around? Bring it out, test drive it, take it around your district. It might be exactly what you need. Basically, the stock truck will get there quicker, but it might not exactly meet the spec that you're used to. Your drivers, talk about your drivers and operators. If your drivers and operators can deal with it, a lot of times in a larger municipal department, or even a smaller volunteer department, my volunteer fire company, the two pumpers that we recently took delivery of, they're essentially the same pump panel wise, equipment wise, in terms of the hose complement and stuff like that. You can easily switch from one to the other. Would buying a stock rig change that ease of switching from one to the other? That's another question you have. So my question was, do we need to customize? And the answer is yes, for everything that I just discussed, particularly in the beginning. Yes, there are a variety of reasons why we need to customize, but I think the clarification or qualification that I mentioned in the beginning is the question really needs to be, how much do we need to customize? Is it possible, if you're still going to go with the custom rig, how much of it needs to be customized for you? You also have to remember, when you customize a rig, sometimes you have to think about down the line. If you make it so unique to just you might not be able to sell it down the road. If those compartments that you had specially fabricated, for your equipment, if the companies that are coming to look at that truck to buy don't carry that same equipment, they may not be inclined to make you an offer, just based on the fact that it is so unique to your fire company. If you're going to keep a rig for 15 to 20 years, which is kind of the target for most departments, it might not even matter. But, you do need to think of those things down the line. So do we need to customize? My answer is yes. but I qualify that with how much do we need to customize? Can you cut back on a little bit of those special, unique features, which will not only probably reduce the cost of the rig, but also get it to you a little quicker. That's the critical part. Before I go, I wanted to talk about a podcast I recently did with Ricky Riley, where we talked about, as I said, that new order for 4 pumpers and a TDA, and we talked a little bit about some of those things that are unique to his department that made, that require that custom rig. He also mentioned that back in the day at a different department, because of how they operated, this was a custom thing. The ladders were kept on the driver's side of the rig instead of the officer side for whatever reason. So, there are lots of different things that, for, specific departments that you need to do custom. But maybe that's all they changed on it. Yeah, you never know. But anyway, we talked. We had some good conversation about some old rigs from his first department, Ocean City, Maryland. He had posted some pictures on Facebook about. He was like, "Now these are my Ocean City rigs," and we had a great discussion about that. And it was fun to talk about. Just there were similarities between Ricky and me in how we in our first response once we were qualified drivers. He had a little bit more pressure on him because his mentor was the officer. But we talked a lot about those old rigs, and sometimes we look back at those and we're like, God, what were we thinking? He talked a bit about that. In fact, one of those rigs that he mentioned was a re-chassis rig, which is another option that we can get into these days as well in terms of options for customization. You get to hold on to that custom body that you have, but maybe you re-chassis. That's a whole other conversation. So again, take a look at that podcast. It was a good time. I'm sure it's old now, but we talked a little bit about Milo France and a 3-section 35-footer that we recently acquired that was from the truck. When we sold it, still got labels, Weldon and 302 on it. So, and we were putting it back on the truck, and I was just saying, good Lord, I don't know how I did this back in the day, 25 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. I don't know how I did this back in the day, putting this ladder back on there. It's high, and those ladders were heavy. I'm 6'4", so I'm in a pretty decent position to get that up there, but I am a bit lanky, so it still was sometimes a struggle. And when we put it on there the other day, I was just happy that we have more than just me and one other person trying to put that ladder back up there. But anyway, just little things like that when you look back and you look back at where you came from and how great it is to look back and appreciate what you have now, compared with rigs of the past, but also to look back at those rigs and say, boy, those were the days. Those really were the days. So that brings me to the end of today. Do we need to customize? Yes, we do. But maybe right now, the better question is, how much do we need to customize? Can we cut back on some things in order to get that rig just a little bit quicker, or maybe for a little less cost? So again, this has been Chris Mc Loone with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Should you have any comments on the podcast today, let me know. Chris.McLoone, McLoone at ClarionEvents.com. If you have any questions about what you heard today or previous podcasts, please let me know. We'll get them answered for you. And we will. And if you have topics that you'd like to see us cover, we've got plenty of subject matter experts that we can bring in to cover those topics with you. So again, this has been Chris Mc Loone, Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Have a good one and stay safe.